Hello, very good evening. In today's lecture, basically, we're going to talk about string class in Java programming. String is an extremely common and popular thing within programming, string data type, okay? And it's imperatively essential that we understand how we work with strings in any language for that matter. Talking about Java, in Java, string has an extremely important emphasis because especially when we get into GUI and graphic designing, graphics based programming, in which you design your GUI interface, every data text that you enter in your GUI components is handled as a string. So if you need a password, it's a string. If you need a number, it's a string. You need age, you need anything that you do, even your email address, everything in Java internally is handled as a string. So understanding string is quite essential. Now, what is a string? String is typically collection of words, okay? Simply speaking, for example, if I type in a word string, this is a string. If I type in a word hello, misspelled, hello, this is again a string. Hello world, this again becomes a string. Hello world, right? Now this again becomes a string, even though it has two words, hello and space and then word. This space is also counted as a character, and then world itself becomes. So this as a whole becomes a string. This is what we basically mean. Similarly, if I write, for example, my name, this name is handled by Java as a string. If I enter a date, for example, 24th April, this again is handled as a string. Even though it contains a number, it's a date form. Java understands this as a string because it contains numbers, dates, and years, and everything. Java would say this is my string. Similarly, if I enter the email address, for example, there we go. This again is considered as, this is my email address, by the way. This again is considered as an string, even though it's an email address, even though it contains @ sign, even though it contains a dot, it's a whole email address form. But internally in the programming, Java would consider this simply as a string class. Java would not say that this is something otherwise. For Java, this is purely considered as a string. Sorry, just checking the audio. So it's internally Java just handles this as a string, that this is a string. Every text that we enter, every form that we enter, any name that we enter, okay, Java would say this is a whole one string, and Java would deal with this as a string variable and a string object, a string data type. Right now, so this is what we basically mean. So even you enter your phone number, you enter your age, Java would consider that as a string and deal it with a string form. So what is a string? String typically, then we define, becomes a collection of characters. A string is typically defined as something having collection of multiple characters. All right, so this is collection of character. Each single W is a character, O is a character, R is a character. When you combine multiple these characters together, this becomes what we call a string. This is a string, this is a string, and that characters can be any characters. Numbers, numerics, special characters, hashtags, hash numbers, phones, static. Similarly, whatever you write, Java would consider this as a string. You write anything in the between and then enter, Java would consider this as a string. So like I said, anything that you enter, any special symbols, any numbers, Java would consider that as a whole continuous number form. This would consider as a whole string form, sorry. So defining them becomes that it's a collection of characters, or we say it's a character array, means it is an array of multiple characters combined together, and that character can be any character, from a space, from a special characters, from a number to integer, or to a simple alphabetical character. So anything that we write in Java considers as a string, and a string is basically any number of characters, any sequence of characters. So this is what we deal with the string, and that is why it's absolutely important that we understand how we work with strings, because now you know that everything in Java is a string. Whatever data you throw at it, internally Java would initially consider them as a string. So even if you create a text field and then you write age 45, Java would say this is a string, because text field internally handles the data in form of a string. So we need to actually understand how we process this string data. Even if you create forms, you want to enter a database, everywhere you go, initially through GUI, when you enter the data, everything is considered as a string. So it's absolutely imperative that you understand how we work with strings. All right, so in Java, now if we start with it, for example, if I write string example, my class name, and start the code, and if I write string variable1 is equal to hello string, right? And sorry, hello string and semicolon, right? So this is typically how we create a string. Now in Java there are actually two modes of creating string. String variable2 is equal to sorry, not like that, new is string and brackets, bracket close, inside this bracket hello Zeeshan, right? So now I've entered basically two variables. String obviously is a class name in Java. It's internally, it's a class name. It behaves like an object, and this object has a constructor, it has a methods, right? This class has a constructor, it has a method. So when we create a string, internally a constructor is executed, and then there are certain methods associated with this as well. Because it is internally dealt in form of a class. String in Java, it is not a conventional data type. It is not what we call a predefined data type like integer, byte, short, float, long, double. In Java, a string is known as a customized user-defined data type. Right? This is what the word we use generally. Again, in my opinion, we say it's a user-defined data type. But actually it's defined by Java, but again we say it's defined by the users. It's a user's perspective. It is not a predefined data. It has been specially catered in Java. First thing. Second thing with Java that we say that okay, like we said, it's a user defined data type. Second thing we associate with it that it is a class, right? So this string is actually a class. So if I take down the notepad, right, so we say that its first point was that it's user defined. Second point is it's a class, right? It is a class. Eventually string in Java is a class, meaning that it would have something called object. So basically whenever we create and work with a string, understand you're working with a class and object structure of Java on which the entire Java principle is based on. So whenever you're working with a string, basically you're working with a class string, and that class has objects. And whenever we know that whenever we talk about class and objects, we have something called constructors and methods. So basically methods, my spelling is going all wrong. Basically whenever we talk about class and objects, we have a constructors and we have a method. So yes, string class does have a constructor at the back, and then it does have a method as well, which are actually what makes the string so special in Java. These methods that we are going to study, which allows basically to work on the string, and that allows us to how we can work on strings and variables and the parameters within the string and so on and so forth. So these three things you have to first of all keep in mind, that it's a user defined data type. Data type, it is class and object based structure. String is a class, it has an object. So in order to use that class, and then because it has a class and object, it also has something called a constructor which is executed at the back, and then methods, and then there are huge methods that we process with that. So if I come back to this code again, string variable1 hello string, string variable2 new string hello Zeeshan. Now here I have created actually two strings. By two strings meaning there is variable1 of string that is created like a string literal. This is what we call literal, literal. This is what we refer to in terms of an object directly. Okay, what this basically means now that this has been created like we create any other reference, any other literal variable in Java. So for example, when we create integer x is equal to 10, this is what we call a string literal is. This is a simple way of creating a predefined data type inside the Java. Any data type that you take, byte, character, short, float, long. But when we create a variable of string, this string has that functionality, and as far as I am understanding and in my concern, the only user-defined data that has this functionality within Java. There might be somewhere else. I have not actually used it. In my understanding, only string has this functionality that you can use a string in such a way to be created like a literal variable, like you create integer, byte, short, float, long, double. The only class that can or that has this capability to do that is called string, because string is a class. Any user defined class that you want to create, you need to be able to create it in this way. by creating the class name, giving it a variable, new keyword, telling Java's compiler that you are creating a new object, and then a constructor call. This is a typical way of creating an object of any class in Java, and this obviously you can do that for, and you must have to do that for string as well. But because this is a data type, Java has allowed as a literal form as well, without using the new keyword, without using the string constructor call. Directly with double quotation marks you write a string. This is what we refer to as creating a string literal. This is what we refer to as creating a string object, right? So string has these two methods of creation as well. So can be created as a literal and object, right? So only string class has this functionality of dual way of creating as a literal and an as object. Okay, and then the only thing to remember about string is that once it is created, it behaves as an object. It behaves as an object. Once you create the variable, it doesn't matter how you create, again this creation. After creation, when we start working with the string, both these variables would behave as a string object. Both of these variables will be able to use the methods of string class. Both of these variables would be able to understand, process and manipulate the string class equally. So it doesn't matter whether you create it like this or you create it like this. After creating the string variables would behave same. So only for the creation process you have to keep in mind that there are two means of creating it. After that, basically you can create, and you can manipulate, modify and edit them as you like, right, using whatever methods and objects we have available for this string class. So this is one thing that we do. Second thing, the only problem is that the string is immutable. Immutable, I actually always forget this. Basically means that you cannot edit a string. You cannot edit or modify a string. It's an immutable string that basically allows us to have only one single copy of a string. Once you change a string, basically you cannot change it. It deletes and then creates a new string. That's called immutable. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it again correctly. It's an immutable string that basically immutable, if I'm writing it correctly. Immutable, which basically again means that this string is now only one copy is created and you cannot edit it, you cannot modify it. If you access it, it's a basically it's a new copy is created, and we will talk about this as we go along and use more methods. So for this, you just edit and change and modify and manipulate. Whatever you do, basically you cannot do it on the original string. It creates a new copy and then it edits it. So it becomes an immutable, means that you cannot edit it, you cannot change it once it has been created. If you do that, basically it just overrides, deletes the old string and creates a new string on that same variable, right? So these are few basic properties that we need to keep out of string. Then comes using the methods on string class. Then we start working with various different methods on the string class. Okay, so now talking about the methods that we're going to use with string class. Okay, so we created a string, and now we need to use various different methods, and we need to understand that how those methods are going to be used with respect to string class. Now if I go into this thing, all right, so if you follow my book, which is Zeeshan, Java Programming by Zeeshan, within this book, this is a chapter that has all these listings of the method. I think it's chapter 18. And then within that, this list is available. Other than that, you can search for the string class methods on the Google and you will get the list anyway. It's easy for you. Within this list, basically, there are lots of numerous methods that we can use in Java that allows us to understand how string works, right? So we start with basically a character at method compared to concatenate methods ends with equals to index of absolutely essential, very fantastic methods, and then length and replace and so on and so forth. So these are various different methods that we basically going to use throughout throughout our programming with Java and whenever we're using string, right? So whatever or task you're doing, whatever operations you're doing, you would be coming across using these methods of a string class, and you would be working on these string class methods. Now, okay, so now this is the part 1. The next part of the video, we will be discussing each individual method and how we can use them with respect to a string class. This is Dr. Zeeshan Bhatti. Thank you very much for watching. If you are here for the first time, kindly hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you receive these video lectures notifications and view my channel on a regular basis. Thank you very much. See you around. Hey, so you've been watching my videos. Now please do make sure that you click on that red icon, the subscribe button down below. Click on that, also the bell icon, so that you can get updates and information on all the latest videos that I post on this channel. And do leave your feedback and comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. Thank you very much. See you around. Fi Amanullah.